All right, Anthony Yard about an hour ago released this tweet here, and it says here, and I quote, "As I've said before, I am now a free agent. Queensbury have now agreed in writing that the terms of my previous promotional agreement has expired. So I am free to negotiate my future fight with any promoters, including Queensbury. I'm excited about the future big fights." The bear in mind, this comes only days after it was reported that he was pulling out of a scheduled purse bid to go through with a final eliminator against Joshua Buatsi, of which the WBO have now ordered that Buatsi face Willie Hutchinson for the interim light heavyweight world title now. After Yarde did not respond to their last ruling, parties have 10 days to agree a deal and then a purse bid will be called. Now, no sooner has Anthony Yarde released that statement, Queensbury Promotions have also released the following statements, and it says here, and I quote, "You have seen the statement from Anthony Yarde today. Queensbury's legal advice is that Anthony Yarde still has a contractual obligation to Queensbury, an obligation which Queensbury expects to be honoured." So we're seeing two different things there. Yarde is saying that he has it written in writing, that Queensbury basically released him from any contractual obligations, and Queensbury Promotions have come out and said basically the opposite, that he still has contractual obligations. This could get messy. And as I've said before, I don't like seeing fighters get into disputes with promoters for a variety of reasons, because primarily with the fighter, it has a tendency to stall and hold up their career. I mean, Anthony Yarde fought Beterbiev in January last year. He's fought twice since then, and in reality, he may as well have not have fought at all. You know, he fought on the undercard of Jojo Zili Zhang 2, and the opponent wasn't announced until the day of the weigh-in. It was a short... Now, to be fair, I think they did have Ricky Summers lined up. To be fair, he pulled out. That wasn't Yarde's fault. So, okay, fair enough. And then he fights that guy, where was he, Croatian or somewhere like that he was from, on the undercard of Shearers versus Williams. And again, he's not fighting the main event. So now he's out of the ring. There's no Buatsi fight on the horizon. He's missed the matchroom versus Queensbury 5v5. He could have been in Willie Hutchinson's place, beating Craig Richards and making an absolute rake of money in the process, because obviously Frank Warren, he has that 3 mil to split with his fighters on top of the purse he would have got for fighting over there. I don't really know what's going on. Queensbury will probably, and especially Frank Warren, will probably pursue that, and they'll probably, this could get messy. You know, Lawrence Okoli, because it was similar with Lawrence Okoli when he left Eddie Hearn and Matchroom, although he was a lot more acrimonious. You know, he was saying things, and we all know what Lawrence Okoli said, which was, again, you know, I'd be very much pro-fighter, but that was just completely out of line, especially considering how much Eddie Hearn done for him, and, you know, how has it worked for you over with Ben Shalom, you know, all I gotta say there. But with Anthony Yarde, it's a strange one. You know, there was never any indication that there was any issue between him and Frank Warren. Seemed pretty good. He's talking about basically working with promoters on upcoming fights. The rumor mill was that Frank Warren, not Frank Warren, that Anthony Yarde and his team were looking for insane amounts of money to, you know, fight the likes of Joshua Buatsi, to, you know, carry on fighting. If Anthony Yarde and his team, I would suggest it's probably more so his team, the likes of Tunde Ajayi, if they're looking to go and do what Canelo Alvarez is doing, which is just basically open yourself up to the highest bidder, that works for Canelo Alvarez, who is a massive superstar. That works for someone like Devin Haney, who, with the right dance partner, is a big pay-per-view. You know, with the likes of Ryan Garcia, Teofimo Lopez, it's a big pay-per-view fight. It works for the likes of them. Anthony Yarde has headlined in the OVO, which I think is the biggest arena he's headlined in. He has done the Royal Albert Hall, to be fair. No, did he headline in that, or was it Dubai? I'm not sure. But either way, he's not done pay-per-views. His first world title shot where he got well paid against Kovalev, that was going to Kovalev's backyard. Got beat against Beterbiev. You know, he's fought on a couple of undercards since then. Even before that, he fought on a couple of undercards. Yarde is not worth what his team are thinking he is worth. And I think all they're doing is they're making life very difficult for him as a fighter, because Anthony Yarde's not getting any younger. He's 32 years old. He is still fighting a who's he, and then going up God knows how many levels from that to fight at world level. If you're opening him up to the highest bidder, at the end of the day, as well as that, if you gain a reputation as being difficult to work with, maybe his team will. Well, then would Eddie Hearn, would Ben Shalom be willing to work with him? And as well as that, would they be willing to put up the money at the end of the day? Whereas you look at, as I said, you look at the way Queensbury are now, and listen, whoever can make Anthony Yarde the highest money, that's who we should go with. But if they're looking for unrealistic targets, if they're looking for unrealistic purses, how is that going to work when you're looking for the highest bidder? And how is that also going to work if you're going over to, say, Sky to fight their guy who is Joshua Boazzi, and you're coming with no backing? As in, like, you're going to come in with no promoter looking after you, So if you're going as the away fighter with just Tunde and the rest of your team, you don't have Frank Warren backing you up, you don't have the network of TNT behind you, you don't have Frank Warren and Queensbury, which, you could argue that he is the biggest, and you'd be right to argue it, in the UK now in terms of promoters, might even have the most power. So you're going into the Lions Den with no backup. That makes, that's good luck with that. So it's really all over the place with Anthony Yarde. And again, judging by what Queensbury are saying there, if they're looking to challenge this, if Anthony Yarde does have a contractual obligation and he's in breach of that, or they want him to fulfill that, this could become a stalemate. This could be a case of Anthony Yarde. And again, Anthony Yarde is not getting any younger. As I've said, he's 32 years old, going on 33 years old, and inactivity won't help him. Just, the light heavyweight division is going to get more stacked when these guys from super middle come up. What is going to happen with him? And it really, to me, I can't help but feel it. He's made bad decisions, and maybe it's not necessarily been Yarde. Maybe it's been Tunde Ajayi in his ear, because it just seems like Tunde just overestimates everything about Anthony Yarde. This is the guy who said Andre Ward had a hard fight with Sergey Kovalev. We won't. You got knocked out by a jab by Sergey Kovalev. Tunde Ajayi makes a lot of outrageous claims, and he really overestimates his ability as a trainer. I think he overestimates. Anthony Yarde has talent, but he is not a Roy Jones talent, and he is not a Canelo Alvarez superstar. But what Tunde with this whole, say it, believe it, become it, all that nonsense? Or does he think that just by saying Yarde deserves X amount of money that all of a sudden promoters are going to go, here, checkbook, how many zeros? It doesn't work like that. You have to go out and do it. It's easy to turn around and say, oh, I'm going to do this. All right, go ahead and do it. And I'm just going to keep saying it. Oh, and it's just going to happen like that. Brilliant. Well, let me know how that works. It's a mess with Anthony Yarde. And it's frustrating, because I think that's a very, very talented fighter. That's a fighter who, Willie Hutchinson, he proved me wrong big time, but that's a fighter who I think would have been a good captain for Queensbury, who would have he would have got well paid being over there in Saudi. Give a good account of yourself in front of Turkey Al Sheikh. You might get more fights off the back of that in Saudi for big money. At the very least, you could go to Sky and fight Joshua Boazzi. I believe they were looking to do that at a 50-50. And where are you now? Where are you now? You got no fights lined up, a dispute with a promoter. You're going to look to open yourself up to the highest bidder, or you're going to look for crazy amounts of money that I guarantee you none of these networks are going to be willing to offer. They'll offer you some good money, but they're not going to, break the bank. They're certainly not going to do that. And I just think this could get messy, this whole Frank Warren, Anthony Yarde situation. And again, it really came out of nowhere. I didn't see this coming. And Yarde was someone who you would associate very closely with Daniel Dubois, because the two of them came up at the same time with Frank Warren. He kind of, had them share the same shows a lot of the time. And Dubois tied himself into a long-term deal. Whether that was the right thing or not, at the time, I didn't think it was, but it's worked out quite well. He looks set to fight Anthony Joshua in Wembley Stadium. He's doing good things. Yarde, I don't know. I do think it is more Tunde Ajayi, because he's always seemed to be the kind of mouthpiece behind it. With Anthony Yarde, I think that he was probably quite happy with Frank Warren, but I've said it before, he should have left Tunde when he lost the first fight to Lyndon Arthur. That was the time to say, you've done well. You've really looked after me. You've took me from basically no amateur career to here, but I need to move on. I need to develop, and he's not done that. And I reckon when it's all said and done, he might live to regret that decision. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I hope you enjoyed it, people. Smash the like button if you could. And subscribe, of course, as always, if you haven't already. Peace.